People I think who are going to benefit most from these tools are entrepreneurs, small
Mhm.
business owners, people who run small nonprofits and things like that, where they don't have access to somebody to do data analytics.
Hi there. Welcome to the AI for Good podcast. Today you're here with hosts Dylan Bose and Sam Wheatley, as well as today we have a special guest, Mike Todasco, who's a former senior director of innovation at PayPal. And so Mike has a lot of background in history in AI, and we are excited to have him on our show today to talk a little bit about his journey with AI and some of the things he's seeing and ways that we can benefit from his wisdom. So welcome, Mike. We're glad you're here with us today.
No, Sam, Dylan, thanks for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
So first of all, Mike, just tell us you've been in AI much longer than Dylan and I have. Give us a little thumbnail sketch of your journey.
Yeah, look, my journey to where I got today is kind of goes all over the place. So I'll give the high level version, but I started my career in finance and accounting.
Hmm.
Way back in the day. This was back when GE was the most valuable company on the planet. That's where I started my career way back when.
G
And
G G what? G what, Mike? What is
G, well, yeah, exactly.
that?
GE, yeah, no, people don't even know what GE was. It was like, my gosh, like GE is going to take over everything. Like if you watch old episodes of 30 Rock, it's almost comical because they talk about like how GE is getting into this and this, and like it's supposed to be the powerful behemoth, and it's like nobody even thinks about GE nowadays. So what a difference 20 some years makes. Um, did corporate strategy, things like that. Started my own business, failed miserably. Then I got an opportunity to join PayPal and was at PayPal for 11 years, the first half in product, the last half running the innovation group there. And I got to explore and play with and learn about so many new and emerging technologies in my time there. Things like augmented reality, blockchain technologies, and of course, PayPal as a company have been doing things with machine learning and artificial intelligence for years and years. And so that was part of our purview and one of the things that we did very well as a company. And so I worked on that whole time. In 2022, I left, and that summer was getting extremely excited about AI and where things were going.
Mhm.
This was a little bit before ChatGPT came out, and I just started writing about it because I was like, more people need to be exposed and understand what this is capable of. And I've been writing. I'm also at San Diego State, their AI center there, as a visiting fellow, and advise companies in the space. But I love it. I spend all my time there, and I feel this is like the biggest like computing paradigm by far of my lifetime, and just want to be a little part of that.
Great. So many questions. So what initially sort of jazzed you about AI, and then what continues to jazz you about AI?
Yeah, no, it's great, Sam, because I think for me, the generative AI specifically, which is like the tools, ChatGPT or
Mhm.
Midjourney, and all the things that we use like as consumers, that got me most excited because I am not a machine learning engineer. So back when I was at PayPal, I would see all these amazing demos and like these potential products and things like that were being done, just like hacked together by machine learning engineers. I was always in awe, but I was always incapable of doing more than that because I couldn't write the code myself. I couldn't do
Mm.
this.
Right.
And then fast forward to 2021, and that was the first time I ever got hold of GPT-3. And that
Mm.
was truly magical, where I was working on this kind of writing assignment I was working on, just kind of playing around with stuff where a computer was going to be elected president, and is elected president in the future. And so, as part of that, I wanted the AI to give a presidential address. And oh my gosh, like it's very primitive today, what it actually did. But I remember being so excited, running
Mm.
upstairs, showing my wife like literally everything. I'm like,
Yeah.
the computer wrote this, like all this kind of stuff. And like that was my first experience with
Mm.
that. And since then, I've just been continually excited, amazed, and just kind of blown away at what these tools can do.
So you mentioned, Mike, that you saw that it's a huge revolution. How big of a revolution do you think it is? We just attended a seminar where
Yeah.
they were touting how big they thought the revolution was. I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah. Is it
So
electricity? Is it the Industrial Revolution? Is
Is it
it
agriculture?
yeah.
yeah, I mean, so the only one I could say that I've lived through would have been the internet and everything moving
Yeah.
online. I started college in 1995, and I was at University of Illinois. I had never used the internet before 1995. I got there and like literally classes are online, well, not like admissions were online, all this stuff, and I'm like, what is this? Like, it was just, I was blown away by that, and it just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Seeing all that, and I remember like coming home, telling my parents about, it, telling my friends, and everybody's like, "What are you talking about? Who cares?"
Mhm.
Um, and then just kind of seeing that progress over the years, and just like what a huge societal change. I mean, we're
Mm,
living in that future today.
yeah.
I think this is going to be vastly bigger than that.
Mm.
Whether
Mm,
this is going to be, agriculture, running toilets, electricity, whatever it
Yeah.
is, take your choice. Like, I think it absolutely could be close to that.
Yeah.
It absolutely can. We The tools are continually improving. There
Right.
doesn't seem to be any potential end in sight for like how good they're going to be. But I always like to think, even if the tools stopped improving today, if we never got better than GPT 01 or whatever the version is now, like, I think there would be so much benefit even in those tools that we still have to figure out.
Yeah.
And,
right.
and that's one of the amazing things. Like, we don't even know the capabilities of the things that are already out there. Um, and if the tools are just improving on top of that, like, I don't know, this is going to be at least much bigger than the internet, and I'll put it, close to running toilets up there.
You heard it here. Bigger than running toilets.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. You're right. This is something we see in our work all the time, is that the implications or the practicalities of the tools are still in infancy. Even our own, like, we feel like we're kind of a year ahead of a lot of our contemporaries, and yet we're still discovering all kinds of new uses for these tools that we had a year ago that we haven't explored yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, when you really get into these tools and see, like, you know, most people's first reaction to the tool is either like, oh, it's not that impressive, or,
Right.
I could do better than that, or whatever it might be. But that's why I think people really need to give the tools time.
Mhm.
Just make it your default. Like, you go, instead of going to Google to look something up, go to ChatGPT to look something up, or whatever it might be. Like, then you will start to realize, oh my gosh, this is capable of so much more.
Mhm.
Because truly, these machines have infinite possible outputs that they can give you. It's just, how do you scrub the inputs so that you're going to be able to get whatever output you want. Um, like,
Right.
I do like, AI is not a very good fiction writer right now. I mean, I
Mhm.
write fiction books. I should donate all the money that I get by writing, in quotes. I donate all that money to a charity, Second Harvest Food Bank of Silicon Valley. Um, the books are not very good, very candidly, but it also lets me see like the progression over
Yeah.
time of these books. Are they actually getting better? Like, what is the level of improvement that we're actually seeing in these? And that has been, you know promising to see. Like, okay, it's no longer writing like a seventh grader, it's writing like a 10th or 11th grader now, or something like that, but it's still not author level. But the thing is, like, it's just math. And
Mhm.
there's a concept, I don't know if you've heard of, it's called the Library of Babel. There's actually even a website devoted to it. Take any like 100 characters, like, just like, think about what the most ridiculous sentence that you've never think has been said before. This is actually within that library. Like, because it's
Mhm.
just math. It's 26 times 26 times 26. It's a very enormously large number, but
Right.
all this stuff is really just math when you come
Mhm.
Right.
down to it. And, you know, will these tools be able to create great works of fiction? Probably. Will we perceive them to be great works of fiction? That's another question, because it won't be written by a human. I don't know the answer to that, but
Yeah.
there's so much promise that does come in these.
Yeah. So what comes with that, though, is a certain amount of disruption or unknown territory. So from your vantage point and, based on your background and then kind of looking forward into the future, what do you see are some potential disruptions, or, whether that's good or bad, or, what do you see kind of looking down the road a little bit?
So the first potential disruption that all of us are going to face is that our jobs are going to change. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's just no way around that. I think most white collared employees jobs change because of the internet and moving things online, and they change because of computers. They are going to change because of AI. That might mean some of those jobs may not exist. Certain fields like customer service probably going to be, I'm not saying customer service won't exist anymore, because it will,
Right.
100%. But maybe like the level 1, level 2 customer service, the more junior type roles in there, for lack of a better term, those jobs might be going away first. And so, like, you will see disruptions, huge disruptions in areas like that. I think for everyone, you have to be, look, the first thing I tell people is understand what these tools are capable of. Because,
Right.
For the most part, what you get for paying $20 a month to Anthropic for Claude or OpenAI for ChatGPT is a world-class tool that everybody in the world is access to. Yeah, maybe they have
Yeah.
something behind the scenes, but you know what? That's probably only 6 months better than what we have today.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. So I think for folks to kind of prevent disruption, or at least understand what the disruption can be, the best thing for people to do is just understand what these tools can do, how they can
Mhm.
improve like what you do in your job. Because all
Right.
jobs are just a sequence of tasks. And some of those tasks are going to be automated by AI. Some of those
Mhm.
tasks, and you're going to have brand new tasks. I mean, so hopefully it's going to up level people so that they're able to do more value added work and probably less mundane routine stuff, which is what the AI is good at. But it
Yep.
is 100% going to be disruptive in the workforce in the short term, just as we're all trying to figure that out. And there could be
Mhm.
a huge step up, and again, customer service or whatever other area that is really going to change how people operate and do those jobs.
To me, it almost seems like we already have been disrupted. We just haven't, like, the sound of from the explosion hasn't reached us yet, or something. Because
It's like that
I
scene
keep
in
think,
Oppenheimer where they see
yeah,
the explosion and then they wait for the sonic boom to come their way. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly. I mean, because you kind of know that it's coming, but it's not quite, or like people haven't quite, you know like integrated it into every part of their life necessarily yet. It's sort of just, there was this initial wave of excitement, when 3.5, I think maybe it was a ChatGPT 3.5
Hmm.
came out, and then and it seems like some of that initial excitement has worn off for like normal people, and then there are folks like us that are just sort of digging in constantly. But um yeah, but I think I sometimes wonder if it's like it has disrupted us already, but we just haven't quite seen all the effects yet.
Like, these things take time.
Yeah.
So even if we waved a magic AI wand and achieved artificial and general intelligence tomorrow, you know, does the world change the day after, the
Yeah.
month after, the year
Right.
after? Like, I think we would all agree it changes. But, there's inertia in institutions, there's inertia in
Hmm.
jobs, there's all these things that we've been doing as a society. And, to just drop in a super intelligent species who can do things better, work unlimited, have infinite access, it doesn't mean things change right away. I don't know how long that changes, but it takes a while for people to change old habits. I am sure there are still
Sure.
people who, um, have their executive assistant print out emails for them.
Yeah.
And they will read the
Yeah.
emails on paper and sign a response and type that up. Like I remember back in the early 2000s, that was a very common thing
Yeah.
that you saw. But like, that probably still exists today.
Hmm.
And I think there are, these things just change over time. And just because something is done better or more efficiently doesn't mean it's necessarily going to take over tomorrow.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, there's a million reasons why, kind of depending on your niche, just because Starbucks or McDonald's or
Hmm.
whatever chain makes coffee or burgers more efficiently, it doesn't mean that a local coffee shop or a local
Yeah.
burger joint can't thrive. They actually can.
Hmm.
Sometimes, in some ways, being human made and
Yeah.
having like somehow authenticated as being human made is probably even going to mean more to us in the future than it
Yeah.
does today. I mean, that means a lot to us today. Nobody gets excited to see cars drive on the highway at 70 miles per hour, but we will pay hundreds or thousands of dollars to go to the Olympics to see the fastest men or women in the world race at 25, 30 miles per hour, which
Hmm.
is way slower than any car, but like that means
Yeah.
something to us.
Yeah.
And so there's, so many examples like that where being more human is going to just carry more value in the future. I think no matter what it is that you look at.
Interesting.
Artisan emails.
Artisan emails.
Artisan,
Well, that's
handcrafted email.
the movie Her is literally
Yeah.
that. So Joaquin Phoenix's character in the movie Her is literally getting emails or getting letters from people, and he will dictate them to a computer. They actually have like the computer writing it in like some handwriting, but it is actually a human writing that on a computer. That's one of the
Mhm.
interesting things about that movie, in
Mm.
fact,
Yeah.
is how a lot of the creative stuff in that film are still done by human beings.
Mm.
And I think they never really get into this, but my interpretation was that was a societal choice they made. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
maybe you could have the AI write the love letter, but instead you pay Joaquin Phoenix and all the other parts are done by a computer.
One of the things I'm thinking of as you're talking, Mike, is there's a great quote by William Gibson about the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. And that's kind of what you're saying is like we're going to see this kind of rough redistribution of this new future. Some will embrace it and move forward with it. Some will sort of lag behind. Some will use the AI integrations and not even realizing they're using them because they've receded into the background. And so my question is, where do you see, what excites, I think, the three of us is like we were given access to this tool that we started using for all kinds of applications. But I don't think that's going to be everybody's use of AI in the future. I think it'll recede to the background a lot.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't know. It's not a fully formed thought, but I'm just wondering your thoughts
Yeah.
on the innovators who see the tool and then the people who just kind of benefit or don't benefit from the tool.
Yeah, two thoughts on that. First, directly to the quote, I was kind of having that experience about 2 weeks ago. My family and I were in downtown San Francisco, and just we're going up there to see a play. Went to get food somewhere, and then we're like, okay, well, let's grab a Waymo, and it's like you driverless cars are commonplace in San Francisco.
Mm,
I mean, that's why like the future is here, but not evenly distributed. Like people don't even think twice about it.
mm,
Like I think people would take pictures of it, all that kind of stuff. Like we just got into our Waymo. There's
Wow.
nobody in the driver's seat. It just took us, and and that was the experience that you have.
mm.
Um, and people are already used to it. And
Interesting.
that is going to play out for the rest of society soon enough. Like that is going to be, everywhere else. And that's and look, I will say, like, every time I've been in a Waymo, it's a lovely experience, honestly. It is quite pleasant. They do an amazing job of that, and it's going to scale out to many, many other places and be more
Mhm.
evenly distributed. To take another AI tool, like you're talking about, like the generative AI experience that we have today, we've all been experiencing AI for the last, 15 plus years. Uh,
Mhm.
Most, or even longer. Go back whenever you would go to deposit a check into an ATM. There was an AI that was reading that. I mean, this was a very primitive. Oh gosh, was it the deep? I can't remember if it was the folks from DeepMind or Anthropic, but one of the main AI groups, like that was like their initial work from like 30 plus years ago.
Oh, interesting.
Actually, like building that system that was just commonplace, and all of a sudden you're sticking this in there, and it can magically read just about anybody's handwriting and the dollar amounts and all that stuff. But like we never thought about that as AI. We probably
Mhm.
the first time you did it, like, oh, that's cool, and then after that, you never thought about it again.
Mhm.
And I think that's how a lot of these experiences are.
Right.
So Google Maps, again, that's another thing. Obviously, tons of machine learning and artificial intelligence to be able to just get you from point A to point B, but we don't think of it like that. I
Mhm.
think that this is going to go into the background. I think that you're seeing, Google and Microsoft and others trying to integrate it into the apps more.
Mhm.
So I do think getting the users where they already are probably makes a lot of sense. Maybe there's going to be a time where it makes sense to go to ChatGPT to do something as a standalone. But, if I can go into my email in Outlook or Gmail or Superhuman or any of the email tools and just do it in where I'm already at to use the AI, I'm going to do
Mhm.
that. So I think you're going to see the services more and more integrated like that, and that will help with the distribution of that. And I think in many ways people won't even think about it.
Yeah.
I'm actually writing something right now where I'm asking people their opinions on AI. So it's going to be a large survey I'm doing. And in one instance, I use the phrase AI. Another instance, I actually refer to it as what it might be. Like spell check, for example, is something done
Yeah.
by AI. And the hypothesis I have is if you ask people, what do you think about using AI to spell check versus what do you think about using Microsoft Word to spell check? They're going to have very negative thoughts about the AI to spell check, but they're not going to have thoughts about using Microsoft Word because I think in some ways just the term AI is sort of
Yeah.
poisoned, at least in the US.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. So we were talking about these integrations that's sort of a trend that's going to continue. Clearly, everybody and their sister is adopting it into their products. But what are some of the things from your vantage point that you see us going over the next year? Where do you think this project, this technology is leading?
The thing, looking forward a few years, just using it in my day to day, I'm just kind of thinking, boy, like where could this be more valuable if it was integrated within a workflow or something like that?
Right.
And just yesterday, I had to take my daughter to the doctor, and she went into the office and all that, and the doctor is doing a wonderful job asking all these great questions and typing feverishly as he's doing that. And like the whole time I'm like, gosh, he's working so hard, he's asking so
Mhm.
many good questions. Like there's no reason why he shouldn't have an AI in his ear that is listening to this, that is doing all the typing for him so he can be
Yep.
just fully attentive and with my daughter in the room there. And doing that, bringing in prior history, prompting him with what additional questions to ask, all of those kind of things, like that can be done today. And
Yeah.
that's
It
something
actually
where
is that when I went to my physician for my annual
Mhm.
physical, he had an AI
Oh, amazing.
transcriber. Yeah.
Nice.
And that's one where, like, to me, like, so that could be done today, that is being done today with your case. Like that's where it's just like we just got to distribute that, like that needs to
Mhm.
be,
Right.
like, we will be so much more effective and productive to have an AI assistant assisting the doctor. Again, like this is not artificial. This
Right.
is augmenting the doctor's ability to
Right.
know everything they possibly can about the 200 plus patients that they have. Like doctors are human, they're not superhuman, but like we expect them to be superhuman. And even though you only see them for, 40 minutes a year, you expect them to remember your entire charts and all this. Like
Yeah.
that's not possible to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pattern recognition is, I think,
Yeah.
one of those unexploited benefits. I just, yes, last night I just asked my own. I create these different bots for different purposes, and I've asked each of them, like, what are some things you're observing about me that you think I'm blind to? And it gave
Don't
me
ask
some
that,
real,
Sam. You're gonna be in big trouble.
it gave me some very, very helpful insight into the
Mm.
ways that I'm using or could be using better. Some of the things, the way I go about problem solving. And again, it was just math, Mike. That's what you're talking about. It's just how does this system spot these patterns?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I talk about with my classes, I created I forget what the name of it was, but it was a public GPT I created with the works of Abraham Lincoln.
Hmm.
And it was, but it focused on like the leadership side of Lincoln.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it was just a way to just have, Lincoln is your coach or whatever
Yeah.
it might
Right.
be. And you could, and one of the things I tell people, like, that's so easy. In the ChatGPT subscription, anybody can do something like that.
Yeah.
And they could probably set that up in 5-10 minutes. And it doesn't have to be Lincoln. You could be into Reagan or Eisenhower or Mother Teresa or whomever. Like it doesn't,
Or
or a
Genghis
combination
Khan.
of like, I
It
want
doesn't matter.
50% Mother Teresa and 50% Ronald Reagan or whatever it is. And like just
Yeah.
see what that teaches you about leadership or your speaking styles or whatever it might be. Then put your works in there and see what it says. Like it's not perfect. Like we're not truly going to be like resurrecting the dead in any way as part of this, but it's like it's directional. And at the very least, just as you experienced, Sam, like it might be able to at least point out a few blind spots that you might have had about yourself.
Yeah. Well, the thing I say is a lot of these tools are ways to interface with information that we haven't had before.
Mhm.
So we're able to create a discrete set of information and interact with that data in fresh ways that previously would have taken enormous amounts of time. Like I would have had to been a scholar in
Yeah.
whatever, Mother Teresa or Genghis Khan or whatever, in
Yeah.
order to summarize their thoughts effectively enough to apply them to a situation I'm facing today.
Mhm.
Whereas now I just create a set of information around that, and then I can immediately interface with that data in a fresh way.
I think the people in many ways that are, and I wrote an essay about a year ago on this. People I think who are going to benefit most from these tools are entrepreneurs, small
Mhm.
business owners, people who run small nonprofits and things like that, where they don't have access to somebody to do data analytics or whatever it might be, where you could then say, "Hey, tool, here's all the data about my donors. Like,
Right.
can you start to make some sense of this for me? Just like just drop in a whole spreadsheet or CSV file about all the donors that you have, and just start asking it questions.
Yeah.
Just say, okay, given this, where are they located? What do you notice about times of year that they're doing donations? What are things that after deeper analysis you might not initially realize? You can ask it any kind of weird question you want, and it's going to give you this whole nother level of perspective. Now,
Yep.
the tools today are probably only maybe 75 or 80% as good as a human in doing that, at least probably a junior level human. But like to go from nothing to getting 75% of a person, especially when you it's impossible to like you don't have budget to hire a person to do that, but for $20 a
Mhm.
month, yeah,
Yep.
you could bring in these tools and they could do some amazing uplifting things for your charity or your business or whatever you might be working on.
Yeah. You're singing our song. That's our
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
That's
our
our whole
history.
thing.
Yeah.
And we did it sort of accidentally because we had to, So
Yes.
and we learn that. And then that sort of brings me to another question I have is, what you're describing is a certain way of thinking that drives you to derive interesting information from these tools. And I don't know if that's something innate to you, or, like saying, I'm going to put 50% Mother Teresa and 50% Abraham Lincoln and come up with a leadership coach. Like that was sort of like requires a weird brain to do that. And I
got a
think,
weird
like,
brain, that's for sure.
yeah, that, and I mean that as a compliment, but yeah. So like, but I wonder, like, if you have any experience, because one of the things that we really want to do with this podcast is encouraging people who are maybe hesitant about this stuff to get involved with it more. So like, how do we help people develop those sort of weird brain skills that get you to think in that way, to really benefit from the tools this way?
Dylan, I love this question. This one gets me excited. This one almost makes me want to like just jump on my seat. Like this gives me tons of energy, because this is all about just creativity and like human ingenuity, and just like being able to just throw things out there and seeing what is going to succeed. And with
It's
the
play.
Maya Angelou quote of like, we're all creative, and as children, until we basically have it beaten out of us as adults. And like this is something that we've seen time and time again. Like certain tasks of creativity, the average first or second grader will outperform a intelligent adult at that. And so you got to embrace that inner child. That's what I would say. Like, explore with these tools. There is no like here's the great thing about ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. Like, there's nothing you can say to it that is a wrong answer. There's nothing like, people used to play this game in Google, like I forgot what it was called, but you would put in a search term and you would try to only find like where one page exists for that search term. Like, I forgot, I don't know if people still do that, but that used to be a thing in Google back in the day. But like, there are infinite things you could, like, literally, if you don't even know what to ask it what you should ask it.
What should I
Like,
ask
that's
today?
the great thing with these tools. And then you just have to try and iterate again and again, and you got to stick with it. So what I would say to people is, like, find a way, like, find something you're having trouble with in your life. It doesn't have to be professional. It's probably almost better if it's personal. These things are amazing for travel planning. They just are.
Yes.
They're amazing for like, if you're an inept chef like me, for recipes and stuff like that, it's incredible. Because I will literally be cooking something and then I'm on step 7 and like, oh, step 2, I was supposed to add flour. Crap, what am I supposed to do at that point? So I'll say like, hey, I'm on step 7 now. I didn't add flour. What should I do? And you know what? It'll tell me, like, okay, you got to do this, this, and this. And like, it'll do that. Or I've even taken a picture of like the food that I'm cooking. I'm like, does this look right? Is this ready yet? Or whatever. And it will give me feedback on that. And that's incredible to have that. So what I would say is, like, find something, you're excited about, you want to excel at, you want to do a little bit better at, or maybe it takes a little bit of your time. Like, it's probably not you're the world expert in it, because it's not going to do, if you're the world expert, it's not going to do as good as you, but just an area where you want to see some improvement, where you could use a little help, and then just embrace that and use those tools for that. And you will find, oh my gosh, when I use this, when I take pictures of this stuff, when I'm making a recipe, well, in my workplace, I could actually take pictures of the wall and it could help me do an inventory or something like that, or whatever it might be. Like, you could, once you start to make those connections, you're going to find all of these other opportunities to make that, to be able to use these tools. The hard part with the tools is, like, they have infinite outcomes. Like, you could do anything imaginable with these tools with varying degrees of success. But sometimes when there's infinite outcomes, we just freeze up. We're like, okay, I'm not going to do anything with that. And that's the exact opposite behavior of what you want. So force yourself into doing something where you could go a little bit better, where you could have a little bit of a better experience. Use these tools, use ChatGPT instead for that, and that is where you're going to start to open up your mind to what these things can do.
Mike, who are 3 people that you think we should talk to on this podcast that are thinkers, creators, producers, innovators in this sort of space?
Yeah. I got I got one for you. I even have visual aid for this one.
Fantastic.
So first one I would say is like don't know him. I've just taught online. Ethan Malik has probably one of the best books for just normal folks called Co-Intelligence.
Cool.
Highly recommend it. It's a wonderful book for people just starting to get familiar with the tools of AI. I read his Substack. Ethan is amazing from that standpoint, and love all of the things that he does in that world. I would say another path to go down. I would honestly go into this isn't a name. This is going to be more of a categorization. I would say I would start to go international with perspectives, because I think for us in the United States, a lot of listeners, like there's a very different bias in the AI world in the US than in a lot of other parts of the world. Japan, for example, like it's amazing how like embracing they are of AI. Like copyright. So training an AI model in Japan is basically free reign. Like if it's available on the open web, you can train a model. You don't need to compensate. I'm not saying that's the right solution, but it's like almost at the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And, I think to just get these different worldly perspectives in that is hugely, hugely beneficial. And then finally, actually, I would actually bring on, so where is this really being applied in the real world? And I could give you some names after the fact if you actually want. I do know people. I would frankly just talk to some folks, like some of the fine folks at Waymo or a place like that, where they're actually doing
that would be interesting.
Some really amazing things with these tools. Like I think a lot of folks like just don't realize how far along we already are. Like I know Elon last week had his whole robo-taxi thing about that. Like those things exist in Arizona, and they're here already. Like it is already here.
Yeah.
And Waymo's is an example of like one company who's like putting AI into practice already, and just a really effective way that I think is going to have a great benefit, net for humanity. Like I'm scared to death of human being drivers. I really am. Like just all the people I see looking at their phones, all the bit these are. We have 40,000 plus people die every year in the United States. And we've just we're okay with that as a society because we get to get around.
Yeah.
And that should not be acceptable. That should not be allowed, that we're just like, oh, we're fine with it because people always die from cars. We should be looking for better solutions. And, Waymo driverless cars are one way to get there.
Very cool. All right. Thanks, Mike. We really appreciate your insights and look forward to continuing this conversation. Love to have you back in the future. And anything you think that we should be caught up to date on, please let us know, because it's exciting to have somebody from your vantage point sort of seeing a little further down the road.
Look, absolutely. I love having this conversation. And, if folks got questions, they could reach out to me on LinkedIn or wherever else. Always happy to help people out. Like, I just want to, I strive to be a teacher in this area and try to take somewhat complex things and explain them to people who, like myself, are not technical. The more that I can do that, the more helpful I can be, the better that makes me feel. So, no, Dylan, Sam, I really appreciate you having me on.